As Sarah's condition worsened, hope seemed like a distant dream. Xander was desperate, haunted by guilt over his mother's actions that had left Sarah paralyzed. Dr. Rolf's serum was the only chance they had left, but Kristen held the key to that cure, and she wasn't about to give it away for free. Kristen had her own ambitions, her sights set on Brady. She'd wanted him back for a long time, and now she saw the perfect opportunity to turn the situation in her favor. Kristen approached Brady with a proposition that sent shockwaves through both their lives. She would give up Dr. Rolf's serum, the only hope for Sarah to walk again, but only on one condition: Brady would have to marry her. At first, Brady was stunned by the proposition. Marrying Kristen was the last thing he wanted. Their history was complicated and riddled with deception and manipulation, but the weight of Sarah's fate pressed heavily on him. He saw the pain in Xander's eyes, the guilt that was eating him alive as he watched the woman he loved struggle in her wheelchair. Brady knew that Xander would do anything to save Sarah, but without the serum, there was no hope. Reluctantly, Brady realized he had no choice. He couldn't let his own feelings for Kristen get in the way of Sarah's future. And so, with a heavy heart, Brady agreed to Kristen's terms. In exchange for the serum that could restore Sarah's mobility, he would marry her. Kristen, in her victory, was more than pleased. She had gotten what she wanted: a chance to reclaim her place in Brady's life. When Brady told Xander the news, the room was filled with a stunned silence. Xander, who had been prepared to give up everything to save Sarah, couldn't believe what he was hearing. Brady had made the ultimate sacrifice. He was agreeing to marry a woman he couldn't stand, all to save Sarah. It was more than Xander had ever expected, and his gratitude ran deeper than words could express. I don't know how to thank you," Xander said, his voice raw with emotion. He looked at Brady, seeing him in a different light, no longer just a rival, but the man who had saved Sarah's future. "You don't need to thank me," Brady replied quietly. "I'm just doing what anyone would do," but Xander knew better. Not just anyone would agree to tie their life to Kristen in exchange for something like this. Brady had taken on a burden that Xander knew would weigh on him for the rest of his life, and for that, Xander felt an overwhelming sense of debt. The day Kristen handed over the serum was bittersweet. Xander was nervous but hopeful. Sarah, though conflicted about the price that had been paid for her possible cure, agreed to take the serum. Dr. Rolf administered it carefully, with Xander and Brady anxiously waiting for signs of improvement. Slowly, over the course of several days, Sarah began to regain feeling in her legs. It wasn't long before she took her first shaky steps, tears streaming down her face as Xander held her hands, supporting her. It was a miracle. Sarah could walk again. As Sarah's recovery progressed, Xander found himself constantly reflecting on what Brady had done. He had saved Sarah and in return, had trapped himself in a life with Kristen. Though Xander had always seen Brady as an adversary, this act of selflessness shifted his entire perception. Brady had sacrificed his own happiness to ensure Sarah's well-being, and for that, Xander would forever be in his debt. Brady, now bound to Kristen in a marriage that was as much a transaction as it was a relationship, struggled with the weight of his decision. Kristen, of course, reveled in her victory, but Brady's heart wasn't in it. Still, when he looked at Sarah walking again, free from the pain of her paralysis, he knew he had made the right choice, even if it meant sacrificing his own future. Xander, filled with gratitude, promised Brady that he would never forget what he had done. "You gave Sarah her life back," Xander said, his voice thick with emotion. "And for that, I'll always owe you." In the end, despite the complicated feelings surrounding the deal, one thing was clear: Sarah had her future back, and it was all thanks to Brady's decision to marry Kristen. Xander vowed to be there for Brady in any way he could, knowing that the price Brady had paid was one that few would have been willing to shoulder. Their rivalry may not have vanished entirely, but Xander's respect and gratitude for Brady had grown beyond measure.